You're very welcome here today on Bloomsday. I'm here with my colleague Peter Kearns, and we're myself, Claire Kenny, and writer Michael Harding, and we're going to talk about celebrating difference for about half an hour, and then what's going to happen is questions and answers. So, yeah.
So thanks.
Hello, Peter and Claire, and hello everybody, and thank you for joining us. And one of the reasons we're here today is because it's Bloomsday, the 16th of June, celebrating James Joyce, and there's a lot of kind of strange characters in James Joyce's Ulysses, and there's a lot of strange characters here today. So we're all different human beings, and I'll be asking Claire or Peter, whoever likes to answer a question, like basic questions about their life and how they are different, how I'm different from them, and how we're different from you, and how you're different from somebody else. We're all different. And we're also celebrating this. I have to say this now, and this is only me talking, but like, this is a little leaflet. Some people call it a pamphlet. There'd be arguments about that. Anyway, it says that we're sometimes trying to make a change in our lives can be difficult, and it can be tough when people are not listened to and decisions are made about us without us. But when we come together, we become stronger. And that's what this new organisation is about, Leitrim DPO, Leitrim Disabled People's Organisation. Is it a new organisation, Peter?
Yeah.
And it's national?
The independent living movement is a national DPO.
Right.
But the Leitrim DPO is just for Leitrim.
It's just for Leitrim.
Yeah.
But there would be others in other counties.
Yeah, we actually came here from Sligo this morning. We had the first workshop with the Sligo DPO. Yeah.
And what's new about this organisation, it seems to me, is that it says an independent living movement in Ireland is a national cross-impairment disabled persons. So like when I came in here first, I was asking like, what kind of disability are you? Like, are you like blind or wheelchairs or mad or what? Right? And it's like, and I discovered it's like this organisation, when they say cross impairment, means like, it could be somebody who's damaged from a road accident. It could be somebody who's just suffering from mental depression or disorder. It could be somebody in a wheelchair from life. Yeah. Like, are you in a wheelchair, Peter?
No, not yet.
So what is your impairment? What is
my impairment label, we like to call it, impairment label is, at the moment it's called cerebral palsy.
Cerebral palsy.
50 years ago it was called spastic.
Right.
And actually, I think that way clinically it's still called spastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's still clinically like a spastic diplegia or spastic. Spastic means tight muscles.
In a clinical way, that word is used.
Yeah. But we don't have any control over that label because it's a clinical label.
Yeah.
So look, I say 50. I'm 59 and Claire's not 59. But it's interesting that 50, 60 years ago it was spastic, and now cerebral palsy sounds nice, but it's still not a label that we have any control.
Yeah.
But we do have control over the label.
So what connects the people in the organisation, like if you have somebody who has a mental issue like depression, or somebody who has cerebral palsy, or somebody who is in a wheelchair for a different reason or an accident, all these are different things.
Yeah.
But they're all what is called disability. And what you're saying is that there's shared problems.
Yeah.
And those problems are about independence.
Yeah.
That's the first one, is it?
Yeah.
Independence.
Yeah.
Independence and autonomy.
And autonomy.
Yeah.
And it's also how society sees us. You know, like they should see us as part of their community. Yeah. Instead of just our impairment labels.
Yeah.
So we all think it would workshop to parents who are told that their child has Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or spinal birthday, and the parents, the whole vision and dream for the kid goes out the window based on that label. The kid is just the same kid as, without the label. But and off the parents, for the first year, they dress their kids, feed their kids, and they put the kids on the floor and go, what happens, So it's the idea that because the impairment label creates a root that is seen as a problem. And you don't see the actual character of the child.
It's like with the right support, a disabled person can achieve what a non-disabled person can achieve. It's equal. It's to level the playing field. It's to make everything equal.
And today being Bloomsday and celebrating difference, and James Joyce has quite a lot of disabled characters in his writing. So we thought we'd take Bloomsday to launch this leaflet that we're going to be sending around throughout Leitrim to doctor surgeries, community centres, groups, day centres, and the idea is that we want disabled people in Leitrim to come together to have a collective space. And we have connections with the local council. They're looking for disabled people to get through us to get involved in local mainstream committees like housing or sports or culture. So that's the idea, is that attract disabled people to enter collective space and celebrate difference.
So there's two things really that are important. One is having a collective space. And again, I come back to the importance of this, because I feel I fall into the trap of perceiving disability as different things. In other words, I categorize disabled people. I see a bus of disabled people. I say, are they blind, or do they be in wheelchairs? It's like that crude. And what's really interesting that's come out of this meeting for me is the sense that all disability can be bracketed in one single independent group. And that, in fact, people who are like me, who say, I would say I'm not disabled, but in fact, I think that everybody is disabled. Like everybody has weaknesses and flaws, and particularly artists and writers. You find a huge amount of people like Christy Brown, for example, who is a genius writer, wrote that great book, Down All the Days. And I think even people like Joyce and Beckett, you find that, I mean, Joyce had terribly bad eyesight, almost to the point of blindness. And the other man, Beckett, had huge disability in his eyesight, but he also went to therapy as a young man and had a huge mental problem. So huge. So that it's really interesting to kind of collect around Bloomsday as well, to focus on the fact that genius and creativity and power and beauty come out of the wide community that we sometimes wrongly label disabled. You know.
And like Beckett and Joyce and O'Casey and also Chris Brown, the amount of characters in the works who are disabled people.
That's right.
Like in Ulysses, you have Leopold Bloom, it seems that, and you have Molly Bloom. But actually, the one of the strongest characters in Ulysses is a woman called Gertie McDowell.
Gertie McDowell,
and she's the sexiest, strongest character in the book, and she knows what she wants. And so Joyce is all about the body. And
Gertie would be here if she was less than that. And so would a lot of Beckett characters. I mean, Beckett has people confined to wheelchair, but he also has a huge amount. There's two beautiful characters. I don't know if you know the two characters in the dustbins. I forget their names, like Meg and Nig and Nag or something. But I forget them. I'm ashamed that I forget them. But they're in these dustbins, and it's a really, I think, a beautiful, powerful way of describing what I think is about old people that are just kind of left and abandoned. And he's another character where she's a woman and she's up to her hips.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So he really.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much in literature that crosses with the stuff you're doing. And the two things, again, to remind ourselves, one is that there's a shared space needed in Leitrim. Is it needed, or do you have it?
We have the group, but understand it's needed.
It's you need the space, and you're looking, hopefully,
we're looking for more disabled people to join us.
As you get more disabled people together. Yeah.
And it's to do with the United Nations Convention on for disabled people.
Yeah.
Which I worked on 20 years ago.
Right.
And it's only happening, kicking in now.
Yeah.
So, and part of that UN Convention is to set up the states to help set up local DPOs.
So the UN Convention commits every nation state to setting up the kind of places, like shared spaces, where disabled people can meet, come together, and have this cross interaction.
Yeah, and also interact with the state system.
This is you were saying this earlier before we began about how Leitrim County Council would be very enthusiastic about finding disabled people that would be get involved, not in their own grouping, but in the ordinary running of civil society, like in arts centres or whatever, sports,
housing, transport. And they're looking for disabled people through us to join. And our job is to build up the confidence of disabled people and to enter those spaces.
Yeah, it's also wider than that, in the fact that under the UN CRPD, under Article 4.3, any policy that affects our lives, we should be fully consulted with. You know,
that's right.
There was years ago, there wasn't an open space for us to actually be involved in those decisions, where we're just more or less told, oh, this is the plan now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what Leitrim DPO do is that there will be an empowerment element that people can join their local HDSGs, housing disability steering groups. People can join their PPNs and feed into policy structures at a local level, and then local obviously goes on to national. You know, so then.
And upon aspect of that, and Claire being involved with a colleague came to college, uncle, is that using the policy spaces to clarify language.
Using the public spaces to
clarify language. Yeah.
Just explain that to me.
So, like, we use the term disabled people.
Right.
And a lot of people think the PC term for people with disabilities. We don't use that term.
You don't use people with disabilities?
We use the term disabled.
Disabled.
Yeah.
And is that the general view? That's
very activists here across the world, yeah.
I get you.
So it was actually interesting in terms of UN Convention 20 years ago. I was in New York. It was the Americans who insisted on taking out the term disabled people and changing it to people with disabilities.
People with disabilities, yeah. Because
they were afraid that it was too revolutionary at the time.
Okay.
Disabled people.
So the names is a very important thing that people who are disabled or people with disability, that people like you make the choices and make the decisions, and you create a kind of a shared space, and that allows you to actually name.
Yeah.
It actually to bring the language that you need into the public arena.
Yeah. And into the state policy.
And there's a great phrase, I think it's in this here. The only people that should represent disabled people are disabled people.
Yeah.
And that's been an issue for a number of years.
Yeah.
We had quite a big there's quite a big private business around disability.
Okay.
It's something like 2.4 billion per year by the state going
Yeah.
to private. We don't get any of that.
So it becomes, is that what it is at the moment? 2.4 billion?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Per,
a huge,
per year.
that's a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
Goes into, and that becomes a kind of a business. And what you're saying is that
We don't have
the
anything.
model you don't want is a model where able-bodied people who do not have a particular disability are actually like managerially running the show.
Yeah.
They own the value of disability. We carry the cost of disability.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful way to say it. Yeah, they own the value,
We carry
and
the
you
cost.
carry the cost.
Yeah, yeah.
So more and more you want to move towards a place where disabled people are running the show managerially, intellectually,
Yeah.
and linguistically
policy.
naming the policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's simple things like at the moment, more over 80% of the 2.4 billion that will go into non-disabled staff wages.
Yeah.
And we're saying, well, and it's all about treating or rehabilitating or curing the impairment.
Yeah.
Now, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I could call a friend of mine here in Leitrim in the anthropology, archaeology section of psychology. And from a workshop I did years ago, they started to look at the bodies, the bones of Celtic chieftains, 2.5 years ago. And they started to find evidence of impairment to the bones. So within Brehon law, before the Romans, Christian Church came here, in Brehon law and the early Christian Church, disabled people had spaces of status and power. And Brehon law was very clear.
Yeah.
So Ireland was the last country in Europe to be taken over by the Roman Greek idea of beauty, and it's when that happened, then disabled people were started pushed aside as not representing beauty.
That's very, very interesting. It really is. First of all, the sense of beauty as it is in Greek and Roman civilization, it's a kind of a sense of perfection, right? And what you're saying is that if you go back into the Celtic period, pre-Christian Brehon law system, and there is now evidence, you're saying, from anthropology, that puts that up, there was a concept of caring and embracing people with disability.
And respect.
And that the kind of fascist notion of beauty, if you like, imposed from a classical Greek point, that hadn't happened in Ireland. Makes so much sense.
And and of course the extreme version of that was the Nazis in Germany.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and that's why I like to say people, there was quite a strong DPO German organization in Germany in the 1920s and 30s.
Was there?
But they still, 300,000 people, disabled people, still entered the gas chambers by 1938.
Disabled DPO as in disabled persons disabled people's organization. DPO.
So we have to be careful that we don't go back to that idea of beauty and that's why David sort of been different. I think Joyce was very clear in being USAs and Dubliners.
Yeah.
That it's there in front of you. Like USAs is all about the body.
Yeah.
So there's no mistake. He has disabled characters in there. Yeah.
It's also true, I think, that writers, storytellers, literature, it's always about what you might call the brokenness of the human being, right? And brokenness in whether it be psychological or physical, I think is also a sense that's about disability or people who are disabled. And I think that it makes us, it's like what happens with people like me is that there's a kind of fear or unease about disabled people. So you know, you see a person in a wheelchair of the cerebral palsy or something, and you're kind of afraid because, you know, maybe your body moves, your muscles move in a way that are not usual in what the person I meet tomorrow. But then it's an ignorance on my part to say, well, there's something about this that worries me. And I think that what worries normal people, and even normal people is the wrong phrase there, but what worries people is everybody is afraid of disability. Everybody is afraid that in old age, we'll all be disabled. And I think that really is a thing that comes to me. I'm 68 years of age, and I begin to realize, you know, when I see a wheelchair, or when I see somebody with a drip, or when I see somebody who's been attended to because they have difficulty going to the bathroom or something, the older you get, the more you realize, well, if I live as long as I want to live, that's me. Right? So we're all kind of tinged on the edges of our bodies by some sort of damage.
Yeah, and that's another thing that like people have to, non-disabled people have to realise. Disability or impairment can hit anybody at any age, whether they're born with it, acquired through injury, illness, or just plain old age. You know, that can. So by making society more accessible and more inclusive, they're actually helping the wider society as a whole.
Yeah. But there is a problem. There is a problem. The problem is that, like, when I was in New York, I was staying with somebody who was a wheelchair user in New York. And,
you were staying in New York,
she's in Manhattan, and she was a wheelchair user.
She was in a wheelchair?
Yeah. And she was on the 20th floor. Yeah. And she gets the lift down. Yeah. Go across the pavement, get onto the public bus that had a ramp. Yeah. Get the bus into work. And so she didn't actually count on any physical barrier. Yeah. So, but she did encounter the barrier of people, like what you're saying, the personal tragedy. Yeah. Of other people going, you know. So
he was able to, from a big high rise, he was able to go down, go to the subway, go to his work. He was in a wheelchair, everything was accessible, but he still had a barrier. What was the barrier?
It's the idea of a personal tragedy.
The idea that he was a personal tragedy.
Yeah. By other people.
So in other words,
other people looked at
the other people were looking at him not like as an equal human being, but like, oh, what happened to you? It must be terrible to be in a wheelchair.
So the physical stuff is actually easy, right? It's hard, but it's how do we deal with changing the personal tragedy? And I think a lot of other writers sometimes use disability as a device to point at and elaborate that personal tragedy. So that's why we're quite keen to get disabled actors on stage playing disabled characters. Yeah. Because how a disabled actor, well, they don't have to represent the impairment. They can focus on the character.
So what you're saying is that even in literature or in theatre, you get situations where an able-bodied writer writes somebody but uses disability as the tragic turning point, like, oh, now there's the tragedy, he's in a wheelchair. Whereas if you had, let's say, you know, all sorts of different disabled people in the theatre and in the writing skills, then you wouldn't be dwelling on the fact that he's blind or she's in a wheelchair. You'd be just like getting to the human story.
Yeah, I worked at the Abbey 20 years ago.
Right. The Abbey Theatre. Yeah, you worked with
as a teenager, that was my dream.
Okay.
Sometimes be careful what you dream of. So I went to the Abbey looking at theatre and disability. Yeah. I and one production had a blind character. Yeah. They used a non-disabled blind actor. Yeah. And he came to me and he said, can you put me in contact with any blind people? I said, I'll do something better. I'll put you in contact with blind actors. Yeah. So he met him, had a great chat, went back to rehearsals. Yeah. and start moving around the stage like this, and the director, cut, that's it. What are you doing? I'm playing. No, you're supposed to bump into furniture. He said, but blind people don't bump into furniture.
Yeah.
But well, for this script, you're going to have to.
Yeah.
That's part of the script.
Yeah.
So even
the guy writing it, whoever wrote it, like had eyes.
non-disabled guys.
And he's writing this like about a blind person, and he has the blind person bumping into the furniture, and the blind person is saying, "But you don't bump into furniture if you're blind because you figure out where the room is."
That's why you need like directors, actors with lived experience, because there's little nuances that non-disabled people will not recognize because they haven't had those, perceptions or challenges or, just experience.
Yeah.
We did a play in the autumn called No Magic Pill. It's backed by the independent living movement, and it's called, it's about the origins of our organisation.
Okay.
In the 19th century, independent living. And it's about the history of the characters who changed the law and changed the policy.
Right.
But this time we have 5 disabled actors.
Well, this was a play. What was the title of it?
It's happening this autumn in Galway and Dublin.
It's happening in this autumn in Galway and Dublin. And this, what's the name of it?
It's No Magic Pill.
No Magic Pill.
It's the idea that as activists,
No Magic Pill.
You, are you going to get cured?
Yeah.
There's no magic pill.
There's no magic pill.
So we're using 5 disabled actors and two non-disabled actors.
Yeah.
I'm doing the dramaturgy with the crew around what is disability, clarifying that disability is not the impairment, it's the barriers identified with the script. The Christian O'Reilly, who wrote Inside and Dancing and Thank You, the writer, and he knew
Christian O'Reilly,
knew the characters, I knew the characters. So
yeah.
it's that idea that of disabled people and disabled activists changing the narrative of the personal tragedy.
Yeah.
So the physical stuff is hard work.
I'm with you. Yeah.
But it's a personal tragedy is the hardest thing to change.
Also, a thing that Leitrim DPO will help with is, I know from my own experience of joining ILMI, is internalized depression, because that happens an awful lot because we're fed this medicalized narrative that, especially in media, I'm talking about, is that you have to be cured or overcome your impairment to be a valued member of society. And
a super cup.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I suppose as a young girl growing up, my expectations of employment were very limited, because I can remember saying to my mother at the time, she was like, as you would ask, your daughter, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a librarian. And she said, but why, Claire, you don't even like reading? And I said, because you can sit down at a desk and nobody will see I am different. So it adds value to the disabled person themselves as well, because you need to be seen in society, or you need to be seen. You need to see other disabled people in society to realise that you can do it too. Like, if you can see it, you can be it. That sort of analogy.
Yeah, you need to, in a sense, embody your empowerment.
Yeah.
And then other people in your group will see that and say, it's like role modeling, isn't it? It's like normal role modeling. If they see somebody who is, again, I use disabled and wheelchair quickly because it's a simple image people have. But just to get to one point that you've said, and it's important to sort of pinpoint it again, and that is that the biggest difficulty is not actually the physical problem. That the biggest difficulty is the perception of people like me that this is your personal tragedy. And whether we're writers kind of hijacking that, the whole answer is to have shared spaces. shared spaces in a cross-disabled way,
Yeah.
and then a way that you can be empowered and get involved in the wider society and create the images of empowerment that
Yeah.
you're talking about that other people disabled will follow.
Because, with disability, there is like different impairments, but we found that there's actually more that unite disabled people with different impairments
Yeah,
than actually separate us.
yeah. And they also unite you with people like me
Yeah.
because, and you said this earlier, and it's very important, there are nuances of human experience that you have been exposed to in yourself, in your own conscious mind, that people like me have not yet been exposed to, but will be exposed to as we get older.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to Brett and Law.
Yeah.
I think the role of disabled people on, and especially in disability arts, is that we not only do we want to be seen as equal, we want to go beyond that. We want to be seen as showing what the human condition can be.
Yeah.
I get you. That's
beyond,
again
beyond the
a hugely important point, that it's not even saying, well, we're equal, but it's that we have a particular gift, that we have insights into human experience, the nuances that come from suffering. We have insights into this that should actually show you that we have a huge gift beyond the normal.
One of my colleagues, Mark Craven, an actor, he said there's no such thing as a sympathy shag.
There's no such thing as a sympathy character.
Shag.
Yeah.
No shag.
Okay, right. Claire.
We have 2 questions from the audience. Now, we've touched on these before. One is, Michael, what is your perspective on difference? And the other question is, how is disability or disabled people portrayed in Irish media? But yeah.
Writing, especially writing.
Well, I think my own sense of difference is that as an able-bodied person into middle age, I really would be very ignorant about people who have a disability. But as I get older and I experience various illnesses myself, I realize that fragility and vulnerability are up ahead. They're in the future. And so I think the older you get, the more you want to learn from people with disability, because you recognize that we are the same. It's not a question that, somebody because they're blind is different from me. They're actually the same, but they may have actually more experience of what you said, the nuances of human life than I have. So I should be listening.
Yeah.
The other question you asked was what?
How is disability or disabled people portrayed in Irish,
public
in
Irish literature?
Yeah.
Well, I've learned an awful lot here from you and Peter, particularly on that subject of literature, where maybe in the past, able-bodied writers used the story or the narrative of somebody with a disability as the kind of tragic turning point. Mm-hmm. And that the key things that need to happen are disabled people being more involved, writing their own stuff, directing their own stuff, acting their own stuff, and showing that their narrative is not about the tragic moment, but the opening of human insight. And to see that as sort of the storytelling of a group of people in line with the Brehon law.
And also sex jokes as well.
Yeah, we'll have to do a separate podcast on sex. Yeah, definitely. Sex in the wheelchair.
We're doing on the 13th of July.
Yeah, well.
All about sex. Anything you want to know about sex and disability.
Yeah, maybe the 12th of July. We're getting dangerous now. We'll have to edit it. Sex in the Wheelchair. You write it. That'd be a good play. Yeah.
And so, how's that feel?
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you, Michael, for talking to us.
And I'd just like to thank Michael, thank the Glen Arts Centre, especially the director here, Brendan Murray, and fantastic techie guy, Jonas, and Mark for doing tech, and James Casey for doing great work with the leaflets. And also thank the Leitrim Development Company, and especially Peter Butler, who is my partner, for funding this gig as well. So, so Michael, we'd love to get you back to do maybe sex jokes. So, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.